see my muscles tensing, nothing was happening. So then I called my mum and I said, Mum, I can't move my left leg.
Or what do you think was the key for your recovery?
And then whenever we reviewed the goals, we started looking outside the home. So you enjoyed jogging was one of the goals, getting back to TV shows, and that's still ongoing.
So welcome to the podcast. I am absolutely delighted to sit here today with Lisa McHugh, who is our country artist and a presenter here in Northern Ireland with a Scottish accent. Is that right, Hugh?
Yeah,
Lisa?
thanks so much for having us.
Not at all. And beside her, we have Ciara Duffy. Ciara Duffy is an occupational therapist who has her own business here in Northern Ireland, set it up about 2 years ago, Ciara.
Yeah, just near a year. Just
about a
talking
year.
about it nearly 2.
Talking about it for 2. Right, so we're going to get into that in a minute. But Lisa, you are no stranger to a mic anyway, that's for sure.
It's getting me off one, that's a problem.
So you're a country singer and dancer and artist and a presenter here in Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. First of all, tell me, why are you in Northern Ireland with a lovely Scottish Glaswegian accent?
Well, I was born and raised in Glasgow, and my parents are both Irish. My dad's from Tyrone, from Castlederg, and my mum's from Donegal. So I grew up in a very Irish household. Even though it was in Glasgow, it was in the countryside, and we were no strangers to Ireland at all. Any holiday at all, my mum and dad would bung us all in the car and come over and spend as much time as we could. And growing up, my mum and dad were huge fans of country music, so they would have went to all the dances over the years, you know, the likes of Daniel O'Donnell, Dominic Kirwan, Hugo Duncan, Philomena Begley, and it was all that they listened to in the car, so it was all we grew up listening to. And I began singing around about the age of maybe 14, 15, and I really enjoyed country music. I was going through the stage of, you know, that rebellious stage where I was pretending that you don't, so you start singing Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and, you know, Whitney Houston and all this, but in the end I went back to country, more kind of American country, the likes of Dolly Parton and Garth Brooks and all those artists. And by coming over here so often and knowing that there was a country scene over here with my mum and dad going to so many shows, it just felt like the kind of right move for me to move over and try it properly here.
And when was that? When did you move here, Lisa?
Moved back in 2010. I moved here. I was part of a competition on TV called Glortira, which means country voice in Irish, I hope. And got to the final of the competition and I absolutely loved it, and that finished in the December, and I moved over in the January and started on the road 2011, and been going since.
And did your parents move with you?
No.
So
No.
Right,
So my sister she had been living in Letterkenny, so I moved over and I moved in with her and her husband, and I lived with them for a year. And then I moved to Fermanagh, to Enniskillen, and I've been there since.
Right. So we're going to get into more detail in a wee minute about your career and everything, but I want to introduce Ciara properly because Ciara is, as I said, an occupational therapist working independently here in Northern Ireland. And just tell me how the relationship between you and Lisa started.
Yeah, so I set up my practice about a year ago, and the main reason for that was seeing the gap between the NHS and rehab. Whenever people get home after hospital discharge, my background's neuro rehab, so I would work with people with strokes, brain injuries and other neurological conditions, and I was a lead occupational therapist in a community brain injury team. So Lisa shared her story on social media, and then from there she worked with a gentleman, Michael O'Doherty, who got in touch with me, and that's how we started occupational therapy. I had worked with people with FND before, knew that my skills and the knowledge that I had could kind of help Lisa. With Lisa, being a mum, I could totally relate that as a mum, we have a role and we're a sister and we're family relatives. I really could relate with that. So, yeah, we took off from there, and I had met Lisa in her home on a Friday afternoon or an evening with Michael, with Lisa and her husband Nathan, and I had introduced myself, recognised that her signs and symptoms were very real, that, you know, her symptoms from functional neurological disorder was so real, and just my role as an occupational therapist and how I could help her. So we had arranged then for me to call back up, and then we started our assessment, and then the intervention came from there. Right. So,
Lisa, just going back to you. So you are a country star. You were on the road. You were busy. you obviously, when you came here, you met Nathan, and you got married, and you had 2 lovely kids. Tell us a little bit about what your life was like, your family, your work, and how that came to this diagnosis of FND, because people listening may not know about it, may not be aware, and maybe they're suffering from it and don't even know. So tell us a little bit about your life to that point, and then we'll bring Ciara back in again.
Yeah, well, life for me was pretty much living out of a suitcase the majority of the time. I would have done, on average, about 140 to 160 shows a year. So it was very demanding. I'd done that for 9-10 years, and then I realised I needed to take a break. I was kind of burnt out, but this was before I got married, just around the time I'd started meeting Nathan, and decided to take a break and go in a slightly different direction. I wanted to be more creative myself and challenge myself in different ways. So, people at the time would have said, you're absolutely crazy. Why are you stopping? Things are going so well. Why would you, change in a different direction? Why try and fix something that's not broken? For me, I just wasn't fulfilling myself creatively enough, and I wanted to try something different. So with that obviously comes pressure when you're no longer, bringing in the income you were normally. It meant taking time off the road, being at home a lot more, writing, and it worked really well for me, thankfully. Released a new album. But obviously, you still have a lot of challenges when you're not gigging as much. It's, how are we going to pay the mortgage, when you're not gigging, you've no real income, And there was a lot of that kind of going on in the background as well. It was a stressful time, even though I absolutely loved what I was doing creatively and musically. And then myself and Nathan, we had our first baby, Milo, in 2021. And life completely changed then after that. Obviously, being a new mum was a completely new experience for me. And trying to navigate, motherhood and this new career. Essentially, for me, it was a lot to try and balance everything. I wanted to be at home with him, but I also wanted to try and push on and, really make a go at this kind of new direction. And then we got married, and we had another gorgeous daughter. And Hallie.
Was that round about the time when you started to feel something wasn't right?
Well, I knew I was very stressed, and I knew I was tired, but I just thought, this is just kind of normal life. Everyone's tired, everyone's stressed. Parenthood is difficult. But then when we had Hallie and she was born with kind of complications, she was in NICU for 10 days. That then changed me completely, because it was an experience I'd never had before. It was a level of worry I'd never had before. You just felt so helpless, and we spent a lot of time in hospital after that, with sleepless nights, and then trying to be home for Milo and being away from him, and feeling the guilt. And it was a very worrying time, because Hallie had a lot of illnesses from she was born right through to maybe a full year later, which we never really stopped to think and process what had actually happened. I just wanted to kind of push on, deal with it, and also try and go back to work at the same time. And wear every hat under the sun. And whenever I'd done that, I just completely forgot about looking after myself. So there were sleepless nights. You weren't eating properly. I was on the road a lot, eating late. And it just led to my body just completely burning out. And
so tell us about that, because I've heard your story. I watched the Late Late Show. Tell us about that day that, you really were sitting on the sofa and it really all happened.
It kind of happened almost gradually to come to that point, because I had a flare-up of my trigeminal neuralgia, which is severe facial pain, which I was diagnosed with in January, but I was given medication for it and it was managing okay. And then I had a flare-up, so I knew, okay, you're stressed, you're tired, but I thought things will be okay, it'll be fine. And that was on a weekend. And I went to a Pilates class on a Monday, and I noticed my balance was way off. I came out of the class and I was walking to the car, and I was texting on my phone, so I was looking down, but I then lifted my head and I was nearly walking into a building on the right, so I was walking way to the right, and I thought, okay, I wasn't paying attention let me concentrate and see if I'm still doing the same thing. And it was pulling away to the right, so I thought, no, this isn't normal. And I felt kind of weakness in my left hand, so I rang the doctor, and they says, no, go straight to A&E. So I went to A&E, they took me straight in, they done the tests for stroke, bloods, CTs, and MRIs and everything, and they put it down to an atypical function an afunctional migraine, because all of the results came back normal. Mm-hmm. And I said, but I don't have a headache, and they said, that's fine, you can still have the aura and all those symptoms, if anything progresses, come back to us. So that was on the Tuesday. I got home. The Wednesday and Thursday, I felt generally very unwell, was in bed most of the day. And on the Friday evening, I had a gig booked. So I thought, I can't cancel at this stage. The gig was 40 minutes long, so I thought I'll power through as usual. And
you did?
I done it.
Right.
But I came off stage and I had to run straight to the bathroom to be sick because the pain in my face and my head was so bad. So I got home and I spent most of the following day, which was the Saturday, in bed, and then on the evening I was lying on the sofa, and I just felt terrible, and the pain in my face and my head was really bad. And I remember my mum and dad were sorting the kids' dinner behind me. My husband was working at the time, and I just felt my left leg was just very, very heavy, just like a dead leg all of a sudden. So I thought, this feels weird, so I tried to lift it. Could see my muscles tensing, but nothing was happening. So I then tried my right leg and it went up, and I tried it again and it wasn't going anywhere, and I tried the right leg and it went up. So then I called my mum and I said, Mum, I can't move my left leg. And she was like, what do you mean you can't move your left leg?
Very scary.
She says, show me. So I'd done it again, and she says, show me. And I says, I'm trying, but nothing's moving. And I showed her the right one and it was moving, and she was like, right, we're going straight to the hospital now. So she took me up to A&E, and same thing, straight in, stroke tests. But the pain was so bad that I couldn't even really function. So they were giving me morphine, every kind of medication to try and get on top of the pain. And a couple of hours later, the doctor was doing another assessment, and she says, lift your left leg, it wouldn't go anywhere. She says, lift your other one. And I tried to lift that one, and it wouldn't go anywhere either. She was like, can you lift your other one? And I says, it's not going anywhere either. And she says, both of them are going now. And I says, yeah.
You must have been really frightened, were you, at that stage?
At the time, I was just in so much pain that I just I wasn't really concentrating on what was going on in my legs. I just needed them to get on top of the pain. And because then my symptoms were progressing so quickly, they then kept me in A&E close to the doctors. And that was me then in hospital for 10 days after that. But I couldn't do anything. I was in wheelchair bound, going to the bathroom, still on a lot of morphine, because the pain even for weeks after that was still very severe. But because all the results came back normal, they put it down to functional neurological disorder, which I'd never heard of before at all.
Maybe we could bring Ciara in there to describe to us and to people listening what functional neurological disorder. Is it a relatively new term?
It has been known in research. For the research that I have read in the last 7 years, it's been known as long as that. I suppose it is a condition that whenever they do the MRI, as Lisa had said, there's no structural change to the brain. So that's why they've given it the term functional. So what we describe it as, it's not the hardware. So whenever you do an MRI, like you'll see bleed in the brain if it's a stroke or a brain injury. But with functional neurological disorder, there is no structural change to the brain.
How do they diagnose it then?
Well, it's all just
symptomatic
and symptoms, and the medical team will kind of listen to, say, for example, Lisa, all her symptoms, and them symptoms are so real. And people explain different symptoms. Some people have sensory changes, as Lisa said, the migraine, functional weakness, altered sensation. There's loads, and whenever the medical team put that all together, then they all agree in terms of all the evidence is showing that there's no structural changes to the brain. And if Lisa tells her collateral information in terms of stress and maybe burnout and how busy life has been, then that's whenever they come up with the terminology or the diagnosis.
And how did you feel when you got that diagnosis, Lisa?
I didn't really process it, I don't think. I was still very much, because even when I left hospital, I was still in a lot of pain. So I went home with morphine, and
your mobility at that stage was
I was still in a
poor.
wheelchair. Yeah, so I was still in crutches. I couldn't walk myself. I couldn't really do anything for myself. And when it wasn't until I kind of got home and a few days of being home, being back in a new reality and realising I have 2 small kids running around and they want me to lift them, they want me to cuddle them, they want me to put them to bed, and I couldn't do any of that. And the longer that went on, I just thought, okay, what are we going to do here to get back on our feet?
And there was no treatment available to you really on the health service. They didn't send you home with a plan or anything.
No, they did say we'll be in touch with regards to a physio appointment. But other than that, no. And,
And was there medication that you, apart from pain relief?
Just pain relief. Yeah. So it's a case of, this is what you have. You just kind of need to get on with it. But I wasn't really willing to take that as an answer. Because I knew, and naively in one sense, but I suppose it kept me going. Didn't buy into the fact that I was diagnosed with something. I just thought, okay, this is what I've got at the minute, but I'm going to get better. It's not a case of I'm going to be like this forever. It's just a case of how do we get back to, being healthy, not only for me, but for my family. And that was very much something that gave me the ambition to, seek out the proper treatment and the proper team of everyone who's been amazing.
And we're going to talk more to Ciara in a minute about what the treatment and everything was, because that's so important for people out there that maybe are suffering the same thing and maybe just don't know that there is options available. Yeah. But how did you go about getting that first treatment? Like, how did you research it? How did you find the person that gave you the guidance?
I shared on social media the information or situation I was in, and because it's something that I just thought, I know that so many people online can be amazing, it can be such an amazing place on your social media where people want to help. It can be a toxic place as well for so many people, but for me generally it's been such a helpful thing over the years.
You've got really good fans.
I do. I really do.
People who care and love you and care about you.
You can say it's very cliche, but I really do. And I shared my story online, and the reaction was, I was completely blown up. I've never had a reaction to anything like this. And I got so many messages of people saying this could help, or you could go here, or this, and a lot of them were the same. And I got a message from a man who said, I know a man in Clare who could really help you with treatment. And
this is County Clare in Ireland.
County Clare, yeah. And then I looked at my emails, and I had a mail from the same man saying, I really think you need to see this man. He helped Michael Flatley. And then I had a missed call and a voicemail from the same person, and I was like, okay, this man is determined to get this information to me. So, what do I have to lose? I've nobody saying, I was away down the well. I had nobody, really. Pulling me back up. No. So I just thought, I've got nothing to lose. So I contacted the man, and he said, I really think he could help. He has been an incredible help for so many people. But more recently, Michael Flatley, who was very similar to yourself, burnt out, couldn't walk, was in a very, very bad way for a year. And he has got him back.
That must have given you a lot of hope, but even to hear that Michael Flatley, that very iconic dancer, that he was in the same position and that he got, maybe you can't say he got better, but that he's improved gradually. So that must have helped you.
It definitely did. And it made me kind of more eager to get in touch with him. So I rang Michael, and from the very first conversation I had with him, he's somebody that there's no airs or graces with him. He's
and what
very
would
straight.
His profession be, or what's his skill? This Michael
O'Doherty. So he basically works with bioenergy, and now I don't want to give him the wrong term because he's got so many credits to his name.
But let's say he's holistic. Would that be right?
Yeah. Yeah,
but
he also, he'll put together a team of medical professionals if that's what's needed. He doesn't, say we're not going down the medical route. He absolutely includes everyone. If you need to go for surgery, he'll say, okay, well, let's go and find the best surgeon. It's a proper package. If you need to go for dental work, if you need occupational therapy, if you need physiotherapy, it's not a case of, come to me and I'll help you with everything. We don't need anyone else. It's a case of
almost
what
like a
treatment
case
do you
manager.
need? Yeah,
Would you say someone who
very
looks
similar
at the
skills.
overall and then brings in the people?
absolutely. And that's what he done for me. He completely dissected the entire story, but he also asked me the whole backstory. What caused me to get to where I was today? What was the root of the problem? Not just here's medication. And on you go. He wanted to get to the root of the problem to try and solve that, which would then help everything else. And from that first, I was off my feet for a month, and from the first treatment, he got me up on my feet. He says, okay, go and walk to the door. And I just looked at him, and he's like, there's nobody going to come in that door and make you walk yourself. So get up on your feet and walk over to the door. And I was like, okay. So I just stood up. It was very shaky. He says, it's okay. I'm standing right beside you. You're not going to fall. And it was just about building it was very slow, but I still took my first steps. And it was all a case of him reassuring. He's like, you have this now, but you can 100% get better. It's not a case of this is the way you have to live your life now.
That was great. That was really encouraging. That's what you needed to hear.
Needed it, yeah.
So, Ciara, how did you find Lisa, or how did Lisa find you?
Well, I had watched Lisa's story, and I was one of those people that said, I have a business, I can so relate as an OT and a mum. But Michael O'Doherty rang me one day, so I was sitting in my office, and I got a phone call from the southern accent, lovely fella, and had said, I have a lady that could really benefit from your help. So that's whenever we agreed on a Friday afternoon that I would go and visit Lisa. And from there, whenever I just mentioned earlier, I had met you in your home. We discussed your symptoms, your signs. First thing I said was these symptoms are very real. Described the OT role, and from there, I went every week down to Lisa's house. We made a treatment plan. First thing we looked at was goal setting, and Lisa's goals were all very meaningful to her. She wanted to play with Milo in the garden, and my treatment plan was based around, Lisa had said to me, I want to include Milo. So you'll see in one of the videos that we were sharing, there were cones, and Milo was going to call out a colour and Lisa was going to touch it. And there was clinical reasoning behind that. And the clinical reasoning was that evidence shows that the dual approach, so giving Lisa a task to do, but maybe calling out the colours, so she was thinking as well as moving. And that can really help FND, along with other things like functional movement, setting goals, weight bearing, strengthening, and there's like a real holistic OT approach to it. So one of the videos is, do you remember walking up the stairs, your goal was to take Hallie to bed? And I just thought that was so OT. So we broke it down by giving you a weight. Do you remember? We sort of guessed the weight of Hallie, and it was just 5 kg. So Lisa wasn't strong enough at that time to hold a weight of 5 kg. So we started with a 2.5 kg weight, and we practiced, and we made sure you were safe as well, didn't we? So I was doing a risk assessment every time, advising Lisa, we're not there yet. Your confidence wasn't there either, and you knew yourself just you weren't ready to take Hallie to bed. But with through time, you were able to do it. And there was a lovely video shared on social media of Lisa carrying the weight, but then that transpiring into taking Hallie up and down the stairs. So as OTs, we sort of simulate the task, but at the same time, we're sort of risk assessing just to make sure that the person's safe. So whenever Lisa achieved that goal, I felt that your confidence really improved, and that's where you started to notice the big gains then, that was one of the goals that you were able to tick off the list. And I'd done a webinar the other day, and you can see Lisa's goals, and you can start to see the goals always start within the client's home. So we would have done practice, like you would have been, we're emptying the dishwasher, we're looking at balance, we're looking at dynamic balance, static balance, but also then you're still a mum, so you were trying to carry out your role as a mum as well. So the home programme was around all those difficulties Lisa was having, but one of your main goals was to play football with Milo. So part of the rehab programme was having a ball and reaching for it and simulating that task as well. And then whenever we reviewed the goals, we started looking outside the home. So you enjoyed jogging was one of the goals, getting back to TV shows, and that's still ongoing. And Lisa, you openly mentioned that as well. That
100%. I'm not here to tell everyone I'm waved a magic wand and I'm perfect again and everything's rosy, because I'm still very much on a recovery journey. I still get tired. I still know myself, okay, you feel very tired today, I need to rest.
So have you learned to listen to your body better?
Yeah, I know now. I know now the risk, and I know it could be very easy. I have been, people are very open and honest with me, especially Michael, especially Ciara, or anyone that would say, if you go back to the way you were, you could very easily relapse and go back to, being on your back again. So I'm very conscious of that, and I am aware that there are so many people that haven't had as easy of, not that it's been easy, but as plain sailing as a recovery as me. They've been off their feet longer.
What do you think was one or two, or what do you think was the key for your recovery? Was it a combination of things? Was it goal setting?
I think it's a combination of things, but I think, a combination of one of the main and most important things for me is mindset. If you believe that you're sick, if you believe that you're going to be like this, then you will be. If you don't, I didn't buy into the fact that I was given a diagnosis of FND. I was just like, okay, I can't use my legs at the minute, but we're going to get back to, this is the steps that we're going to take to get back to doing that. And, mindset, what food you eat, the sleep that you have, exercise, movement, and I can't remember the fifth one. There's 5.
Eating well, sleeping well, and managing your energy was a big thing.
Managing the energy, yes. So doing small bits to build up the energy, but realising, okay, I need to rest as well, and not on the good days push it too far, so then I would be lying on my back for 2 or 3 days. So I'm still very much conscious of, I need to manage my energy, and I will be, because I know what can happen if I don't.
And what about family life? Have you had good support from family and friends on your journey?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I couldn't.
And that's so important.
Yeah, I literally couldn't have done it without them. Whenever I was first diagnosed in July, I spent 7 weeks in Donegal with my parents and my family who were over for summer holidays. So in one sense, it happened at a good time, if there's a good time, because they were all over, and it meant, I had care for the kids. They were out playing with their cousins, they had a ball, and that took a level of guilt off me, because they weren't in the house looking at me as if, why can't we do anything? They were out enjoying themselves every day, and I could just focus on me recovering, but I was still with them. I was still there. I was still able to see them, be a part of their bedtime routine, even though I couldn't do much. I was still physically with them. So that was a massive help, and they still are amazing. They still are.
Good. So Ciara, back to you. So you work with FND, that's something, but I mean, that's not the only thing. You said you have other, so tell us a little bit about the other work that you do, as well as the work that you've done with Lisa.
Yeah, so a lot of my background is neuro rehab, so neurological conditions, and one of them being FND. But from working in a brain injury team and working in a regional acquired brain injury unit in Belfast, a lot of my clients would have brain injuries, strokes and other neurological conditions. So that's the type of work that I really enjoy. But I also notice a large gap in whenever people are discharged from hospital with other conditions that maybe don't have that level of independence that they used to have. So as occupational therapists, that's our bread and butter, as I call it. We have the knowledge and the skills to get people back to a level of independence. So there's a range of conditions that I can help support, and it's although my skills are within neuro rehab, there is other conditions as well that we can help support as OTs.
So you can apply occupational therapy to so many
transferable skills.
And that link between the health service, OTs and private practice, that's something that's really important, because the health service doesn't have the capability of providing everything that, as you found out, everything that the client needs. So I think we need to embrace private practice in conjunction with.
And I would love a more collaborative working, and I do think that's the way it's going. I do see more NHS blending in with private practice, and I notice that in my own practice. So referrals are coming from GPs, but they will, whenever the client's saying, do you know of a private OT, or then I am getting referrals now, which is really, really good. So I've developed good links with local GPs. It does take a bit of time to kind of branch out, just been with newly into private practice. but also other OTs that I've had the experience of working with is referring to me as well. So if someone's asking, do you know anyone private? That's whenever I'm getting the phone call, which is really good, because they've worked alongside me and are sort of recommended me, which I really, really feel grateful for.
But you have so many irons in the fire. You are doing online clinics.
Yeah, consultations.
Yeah. You're setting up a clinic as well.
I'm setting a clinic up. So what I want is I go to people's homes and I have a van, and yes, you can put so much into that van, and it's lovely to be in a person's home, and it'll continue to be like that as well. But also there's going to be a clinic that I can bring bespoke equipment in. Yeah, that it's tailored to the individual as well. There's stairs in the clinic. I'll have other rooms in it as well, and hope to bring other practitioners in. And then I also do educational workshops. So I think it's very important to educate people on their condition, the symptoms. And we've done a lot of that with Lisa, didn't I?
Yep.
How to recognise the symptoms, looking at energy conservation. It's a lot of work that can be going into it. So education and early intervention is so key.
And you're working with A1 Momentum as well, doing some moving and handling, single-handle care.
Yes, can't wait. I'm starting now very soon. So training is starting next week, and then I will be associate of A1 Momentum. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm so passionate about manual handling and seating. So it's actually something I'm really excited for.
She's a talented lady, isn't
I
she,
know,
Lisa?
I know. There's so much going on.
I know.
She needs to slow down too.
I know. You need to balance that.
I know. No, I'm really excited for that. And just working with great people. So, yeah, that's...
But you have 4 young children as well?
I do. I have
what age are your children?
So 10, 8, 6 and 3.5.
See, that's a lot of work as well.
It is, yeah. So
you need to take your own advice that you give Lisa.
I know. That's what I keep saying to her.
I do a lot of self-care. I'm not going to lie. I go for reflexology. I go for my walks. I do think it's really important to kind of book that time when you're so busy within work and children. As mummies, we need that time to ourselves. So I think that's how I'm juggling both. But yeah, they're still young. They do get, my time. I'm very conscious of that. But I still want to grow in my career as well, and think there's such a need for it.
And you're very similar, like the both of you, in that you're career driven.
Yeah.
With your family, and it's just getting that balance right and getting your priorities right, and it's very difficult.
It is.
We talk a lot because I'm in a family business, and there's always this debate: is it family? Which comes first? Is it family or business?
Yeah.
And you see, as the mum, I always say the family, but you can't really extract the family from the family business. So it's just getting the balance, and we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to get that balance. Family and business, because we're all in a family business. So. And in the book, The Power of OT, there's one line we have in it: you can't fill from an empty jug.
Yes,
and that's what we've all tried to do that. And that's where that's what probably ended, how you ended up the way you were, and it's something we have to be mindful of.
And health's so important. And I think with Lisa, we're the same age, aren't we? We are mums. We have a career, and I think that made the process of working together.
We just clicked straight away.
We did.
From the very first meeting. 100%.
And Lisa was very motivated as well whenever I had first met her, and engaged and followed the rehab program. Whenever I had so there was accountability there. But also I always talk about getting the trust from the OT. So, explaining our role. I had let Lisa know that her symptoms were real, and we sort of got that trust. I felt like you did trust me at the very beginning, which helped the rehab program as well.
And I know I was listening to your seminar, and it's in the book as well. As occupational therapists, we often say, what matters to you, not what's the matter with you.
Yeah, that was Ciara said that on the very first day.
And that's something, a quote that I found, and I'm sure you've all seen it, and I put that in the book as well, because it's so important that the person is at the centre of what we do. It's their goals, not what we think you should be doing as the OT. So what matters to you. So just to finish off, Lisa, what's the future like for you now?
I am, as I say, very much still on a recovery journey. So I am very conscious of, trying to get that balance and trying to manage my energy and slowly easing myself back into to work. As I say, I am a singer, I am a performer. That's what I absolutely love to do. I'm also a radio presenter and TV presenter as well. So I am very fortunate that I have kind of a good few different avenues that I want to kind of go down more and explore more opportunities this year. I want to obviously make sure that number one priority this year is my health and having a healthy family and, you know, a balanced lifestyle. That's the main goal.
That's right. And you have to get the foundation right in order to build the rest of it. So I watched you on the Late Late Show, and unfortunately we can't end by saying to you, would you like to sing us a song?
It's okay, thank God you can.
I wish we could.
There's no guitar player here.
But thank you very much, Lisa, for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we had to not tell everybody that you were here in the building because you might be inundated with fans outside. Certain people were not told.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And Ciara, keep up the good work. You're amazing. I think your business is fantastic. Just didn't even mention it's called EnableOT.
Yeah.
Talked about you. We didn't name the business. So you're doing really well. I'm very proud of you and just keep going. And thank you both for coming. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.